Sony made a big splash this week at IFA Berlin with the announcement of the Sony Xperia XZ3. I can't wait to get my hands on it and that OLED 2K display. But I've been using for the past week this. This is the Sony Xperia XZ2 Premium. It's got a 4K display, that's right, a 4K display in a smartphone, and it's got some of the best low-light camera performance I've ever seen. But let's see what it looks like and let's see if it lives up to what other flagships have to offer. Hey everybody, it's Andrew, and this is my unboxing and review of the Sony Xperia XZ2 Premium. Coming up. Want to see more videos like this? Why not hit that subscribe button and make sure you hit that notification icon. This way you'll be alerted every time I post a new video. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter. That's where I post all the latest updates. The Sony Xperia XZ2 Premium comes in at a whopping $999 US. All the links below for more information and where you can buy one. Now powering it is the Qualcomm Snapdragon 845 processor, 6GB of RAM with 64GB of onboard storage. Storage is expandable via the microSD card slot, which supports up to 512GB microSD cards, and it has a 3540 mAh battery. And it has a 5.8-inch 4K Triluminos display, which is simply stunning. We'll talk more about that in just a little bit. But enough with the specs, let's find out what you get in the box. Let's open it up. Now packaging is very Sony-esque, very premium, and very high-end. Holding the unit for the first time, I'm struck by the size of it in the sense that it does have a rounded back, which is a bit unusual. I'm not sure if I like this design. We'll talk more about that in just a little bit. You get your quick charger as well as the USB-C cable to charge the device. They also supply some earbuds and some extra tips and a clip as well. That's a nice touch. And they give you a headphone adapter as there is no 3.5mm headphone jack, a big disappointment. Now it comes in either chrome black or, as you see here, the chrome silver. It's got a glass front and a glass back, and it's really excellent in terms of build quality and construction, really first rate, but we'd expect nothing less from the Sony Xperia line. Now to be fair, not everybody's going to like this design, the rounded back, squared off edges. This is typical Sony style. Now whether you like Sony style or not, that's a matter of personal preference. But to be honest, I'm really not a big fan of this design. I much more prefer the Samsung Galaxy Note 9's design over this. I'm not crazy about the bezels, and it's a really slippery design as well. Now the SIM tray is located on the top of the device. You don't need a SIM ejector tool as it has a latch, making it easy to swap out your SIM or your microSD cards. That's a pretty handy feature. On the bottom is a USB-C port. On the right side is your power button and your volume rocker up and down. There's even a dedicated shutter button for your camera. I wish more smartphones would have that. That's a really handy feature. And on the back is your fingerprint sensor, working well, registering my finger pretty much every time I used it. Not bad. But the star of this show has to be its gorgeous 5.8-inch Triluminos display. It has a resolution of 3840 by 2160, supports HDR content via HDR10, and has a whopping 765 pixels per inch. And it has a 16:9 aspect ratio, making it a media consumption beast. There's no doubt about it. That 4K Triluminos display is simply stunning. And it's a very bright display at 535 nits. It's good for both indoor and outdoor use. I had no issues as far as readability in the sunlight. It actually was pretty good. But where this display really shines is when you're watching 4K HDR content. It really is something special. I thought the blacks are really deep, the colors are really vibrant, really punchy, especially considering this is not an AMOLED display, this is an LCD panel. I'm pretty impressed overall with the display on this device. But I'm not crazy about those top and bottom bezels. They're a little bit dated, look a little bit too big, and I'm not a big fan of those side bezels. I think they could be thinner. Where now in mid-2018, the bezel-less design seems to be in fashion. This is more of a throwback look. I'm not the biggest fan. The Sony Xperia XZ2 Premium is running Qualcomm's flagship processor. It's the Snapdragon 845, and judging by the performance results as you see here, it has flagship performance. You can run your games on high settings with no problems at all, no issues that I can report, and it stayed relatively cool while you're gaming. And it has 6GB of RAM, so the OS was pretty snappy, pretty fluid. I didn't notice any lag whatsoever. And you can see it did well against its competition, holding its own against other flagships. I was impressed with the performance. Now when it comes to endurance, the Sony Xperia XZ2 Premium I would say is a little bit below average, especially when you compare it to some of the other flagships in this category, lasting only 7 hours and 36 minutes on my AMDtech endurance test, and it really was a little bit disappointing. Although not terrible, you can get probably close to a day depending on your power management settings. Sony supplies a fast charger in the box, though as fast chargers go, this proved to be an average one. A 30-minute charge from 0 resulted in 38%, 2 hours to get to 94%, and then it really slows down, taking a whopping 2 hours and 27 minutes to get a full charge, and that to me is not great. Sony was among the first smartphone makers to adopt a dual speaker setup for its smartphones all the way back in 2014 with the Xperia Z2, while Samsung, for example, only did it this year with the S9 and more recently with the Note 9. The X2 Premium we have here today has some stereo speakers that sound pretty good. One is in the slit where the front glass meets the frame on the bottom of the phone, and the other is in the earpiece, and I thought the overall sound was excellent. Let's hear it in action. Now Sony employs a dual camera setup on the back. You get a 19 megapixel main shooter with an f1.8 aperture, and you have a 12 megapixel secondary shooter. It's a black and white shooter that does f1.6 aperture. Now these photos were taken in a low light situation. I think they produced some of the best low light photography I've seen out of a smartphone so far. Now let me know in the comment section below what you think of the quality of these photos. I actually think they're pretty good. Now because of that secondary black and white camera, you're getting some pretty nice black and white photographs. I think they look really sharp, very high end, and have a really good look and feel to them. I'm impressed. And look how the yellow really pops on these couple of photographs. It's really eye-catching. Now you have the portrait mode, which of course gives you that blurred background or bokeh effect. I thought it was actually pretty good. It shoots 4K video, 30 frames per second. Unfortunately, there's no optical image stabilization, which is a little bit of a disappointment, but the electronic image stabilization seemed to work really well. And you can shoot super slow motion video. I was really impressed with it. It's 720p, and I thought it was a lot better than the Samsung Galaxy Note 9. That was a bit grainier. This seems a little bit more sharper. I'm impressed. So this is the front-facing camera on the Sony Xperia XZ2 Premium. It's a full HD resolution. I want to know what you think. Let me know in the comment section below. I actually think these cameras on this device are really good. Dual setup cameras on the back, and of course this front-facing camera. But I want to know what you think. Let me know in that comment section below. Now, one thing about Sony smartphones is that from a software standpoint, they all look and behave in pretty much the same way, and that's not far detached from stock Android, and that's a good thing. But unfortunately, it's not running Android 8.1, it's only running Android 8.0, which is a bit disappointing. It's not the latest version of Android. The good news is that it's running the August security patch, so at least it's up to date as far as security is concerned. And it has an IP68 rating, meaning it's dust and water resistant. You can dunk it in water for up to 1.5 meters for 30 minutes. So to wrap it all up, the good things I like about the Sony Xperia XZ2 Premium are pretty obvious. It's that 4K Triluminos HDR display, which is simply stunning. It's got a premium build, it's got great all-around cameras, especially its low-light performance really impressed me. I like the great stereo speakers that it has, but ultimately there are a few things holding me back from a recommendation. Number one, it's super expensive at $1,000, the cameras don't have optical image stabilization, and it's rather bulky and heavy with a dated design. I'm going to give it a 77%, and I'm not going to give it a recommendation unless you really need those low-light cameras and a 4K display in a smartphone, but most of you probably don't need that. that. So that's why I'm not going to recommend it. So what do you think about the Sony Xperia XZ2 Premium? It's a nice smartphone. There are a lot of great things going for it. For instance, the 4K Triluminos display is absolutely gorgeous. It's HDR10 compliant, meaning you're watching HDR content. The screen is absolutely stunning. And I'm not kidding, it really is great. But I'm not crazy about the bezels. I'm not crazy about its design with that rounded back and that bulky look to it. It's not something I really do like, especially here in mid-2018 where we've seen some really cutting-edge bezel-less designs. This certainly is not that. But it does have very good performance with that Snapdragon 845 processor, pretty decent battery life, not great, but pretty decent battery life. And overall, I think the experience is pretty good with their flavor of Android. But again, I'm not crazy about this design, and I think that's a thing that's holding me back from a go. The other thing that's holding me back is the fact that this is $1,000, and it's an overpriced phone in my opinion. At $1,000, I would certainly look at the Samsung Galaxy Note 9 before I would look at this. Now, one thing that this has a leg up over the Note 9 and other smartphones in this price range is the fact that it has some excellent low light performance with that dual camera setup on the back. It did really well, and I think that's one of the selling features of this $1,000 phone. Now, that and the 4K display may be enough for some, but this dated design, this rather not attractive design, holds me back from giving it a recommendation. But I want to know what you think. Let me know in the comment section below. What do you think of the Sony Xperia XZ2 Premium? Are you waiting for the XZ3 that has just been announced at IFA Berlin this past week? And I want to see their OLED display, see how it stacks up against one of my favorites, the Galaxy Note 9 Super AMOLED display. But this has an excellent display. This has great low light cameras, not a great design. That's the bottom line. Again, I want to know what you think. Let me know in that comment section below. So please hit the like button, please subscribe, please share this video. Don't forget to leave a comment in that comment section below. Let me know how I'm doing. Let me know if there's a device or something out there you think I should review. I'll do my best to try to make that happen. Don't forget to check me out on Facebook, on Twitter, Instagram, and of course my website, AMDtechreviews.com. So until next time, this is Andrew from AMDtech. See ya.